Okay, Commissioners, we're back. The next item we have is concerning our volunteer fire departments. We're very happy to have, and they do a great job for us in Cabarrus County. I'm going to turn to Steve Langer, and Steve, if you will introduce who's sitting with you, and then I'll let you handle the presentation.
To the left of me, we have Assistant Fire Marshal Jason Burnett, and to the right, we have Mr. Ken Nichols, who is the Board President of the Flow Store Fire Department, and who also chaired our contract committee over the last several months. So the first item we have for you is changes and modifications to the fire service contract. If you'll remember last year, we made some changes and incorporated some performance and accountability measures as recommended by the fire study. That brought about some concerns from Flow Store, and some conversation ensued between their board and our office and the commissioners. And through Commissioner Osterreich and their board, there was some compromise on some language that needed to be added. And over the last several months, the contract committee met and reviewed. So I'll let Ken, I guess, kind of touch on the process and what we did and the changes that were actually made to the contract.
Yeah, we did have a contract committee, and I got picked as committee chairman. I sent out correspondence emails to all the departments throughout the county soliciting their input, recommendations, and/or concerns, and brought those back to the committee. They were discussed, and then at the conclusion of the committee, we agreed that for the most part, the fire departments overall were satisfied with the contract as it is written, incorporating those changes that were agreed to last year. So that's what we voted on, and that's what was agreed to.
Is that what, if you'll go one more. Okay, so that's what's in red? So
Yes, ma'am. That's
you want to
correct.
highlight that? And
Yeah, what's
just reiterate
highlighted
what that
in
is?
red is the recommended changes, and basically to Section 9, the end paragraph reads, if none of the Cabarrus County departments want equipment, that the department shall make the equipment available to departments in adjoining counties that provide mutual aid to that department. So to start with, the equipment would be made available to in-county departments, and if there was no need or interest from any in-county departments, then the department would try to offer it to surrounding departments to their district that provide mutual aid. And then Section 10 incorporates any fire apparatus purchase exceeding $50,000, command and utility vehicles excluded, and all air pack purchases would come before the fire marshal's office for approval and certificate of need.
Okay, and the one in our packet has Flow Store as the one listed, but that would be a contract with each of the volunteer fire departments.
That's correct. This would be, that was one of the concerns, was maintaining a consistent contract throughout all the departments. So yes, that's just a sample, but it would be the same contract.
Okay, and I just want to make sure I understood correctly, did each of the volunteer fire departments already approve this, or is this something that will be coming before them at their next board meetings, or how will this process go out?
It was presented to the fire departments at the Fire Service Board, and was presented to them and voted on at that last meeting.
The Fire Service Board voted on it, or each of the individual fire departments?
Well, each of the fire departments were present with the exception of 2 departments, and they all had an opportunity to speak and discuss or say anything that they wished for the contract, and there were no further comments and felt that they were happy with the changes that we had made. So at that point, all the departments, with the exception of those 2, felt that what we had was a good product and to move forward with bringing it before this board.
Okay, so there's a signature line for the president and the chief from the volunteer fire departments, and a signature line for the county manager. So what's the timeline on getting those back to be signed? I mean,
We typically do not send the contracts out until after the county budget's approved with the rate that's going to be approved for the fire tax. So typically we send them out at the end of June and get them back mid-July.
I just wanted to verify what we were looking at to have the change in place. Okay, so by the end of July, all of these should have been executed by the volunteer boards.
That's correct.
And provided back to the county manager. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Commissioners, questions on this? I know we have some other information you're going to go over. Do you want questions on this first? He might want to add anything, or do you have any questions about why this was done?
You may have already answered this question, but the two departments that were not at the board, you said had approved this verbally, or?
No, they were not at the meeting. I don't know if they provided any correspondence to Ken as the chair on the committee, but it went out to everybody through Ken, to all the board presidents and chiefs of the department by email.
Yeah, and I did not receive a response from every single department. I did solicit them multiple times, and I asked them to please let me know should you have any concerns, and I reminded them of it. I did hear from some departments, but not unanimously. So there may be a department out there that may have a question or two, but I think overall it's been accepted.
Yeah, were there any departments that had any problems or issues or concerns with it? Or just some that just didn't speak at all?
There were some that had concerns with paragraph 9 and 10. With these changes, though, I think it's going to alleviate most of their concerns, because these were the same concerns that they had last year as well.
And one of the reasons that I asked that question is when you came and talked to us last year, in an attempt to understand what we were dealing with, I asked some of the other departments, I said, Flow Store is unhappy with portions of this contract. Why aren't you, or why haven't we heard from you? And their response was, well, we're not happy with it either. We just didn't come and talk about it. And so that's why I was curious if everybody was on the same page or not. And it sounds like we think they are, but we're not 100% sure.
Yeah, I can't say that necessarily 100% of the departments are perfectly comfortable with everything, but with these changes that we're putting in for this year, I do believe that clearly the majority of the departments will be comfortable as a result of these changes.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We had talked about this, I guess, in October when we had done this, but I wanted to thank both of you gentlemen again for being so amenable to work together. I think this is a great example of how government and private, not necessarily private, but community organizations can work together, and I felt like both of you were very willing to find a compromise, and it just took a little bit of time to do that, and I really appreciate it. And Mr. Nichols, I'll tell you, I had gone out, I mentioned this to you, to Coldwater and talked with Mr. Blackwelder out there, and got to take a tour of their facility and things like that, and our volunteer fire departments provided tremendous service for us at an exceptional cost when you look at what some of the city fire departments and things like that, and I really appreciate all that you do for us.
Well, thank you. We appreciate the support you gave us last year. You were the one that contacted us and said, can we do something? And that's when we came up with these changes. That was your idea to do that, and it went a long ways. And I have to say that Jason and Bobby and Steve all have been great to work with, and it's been very pleasurable and very professional to work with them in reaching this point. So I appreciate it.
Okay, so you're going to continue with the next item, Mount
You're
Pleasant?
welcome.
All right, next we will have Mount Pleasant. If we can get Town Administrator Randy Holloway and Chief Jerry Taylor. The Mount Pleasant Fire Department is requesting a 1.42 cent increase on their rural tax rate to cover the loss of the staffing grant and some other needs. So we'll turn it over to these gentlemen.
Thank you,
Oh,
Steve.
I'm sorry. The mayor here.
And Mayor Deluby's with us. Commissioners, staff, thank you for giving us time to come and speak with you about our request. We'll try to move through this as quickly as possible and address any questions that you might have. If we could start through the slides there, the first one will have our current budget, and you can see the current budget includes the $30,000 staffing grant. I think we are the last municipal department to receive that grant, And you can see our current rule rate is 8.3 cent, and the town is contributing about 13 cent of the tax rate towards the fire department. Next slide. Our proposed budget for next year, and this sheet actually changed. You folks run ahead of the town. I need to pass out an updated sheet if I could that has some different numbers on it that would be correct. I'll give just a second for those to get around. And there was actually a typo on this one. We were informed by the Fire Marshal's office that this current year would be the last year of the staffing grant. So in putting the budget together, we're asking that the rate go up to 9.75 cent, up from 8.3, to basically cover the loss of that $30,000 staffing grant. The rate for the town, you can see, actually went up more than what we initially submitted. Currently, the town is contributing about $166,000 a year to the fire department. That's going up to $182,000, which is a little over 14 cents on the tax rate. And you can see the total budget there, and the handout that I just passed around is $588, with the majority of that being to replace the staffing grant, and about $12,000 additional dollars would be generated from that increase to help us with some increase in workers' comp, insurance on a new tanker we have coming in. The chief is wanting to start a junior firefighter program, which I strongly support. We have to cover workers' comp on those young folks. And also, we're going to be adding a $900,000 addition to the fire station, which I'll let the chief talk about in just a second. These volunteer departments in the county were never designed to house paid firefighters, and we literally have firefighters sleeping in what it amounts to as a closet. You're supposed to have an outside window, an operable window, that type of thing. The station was not designed to handle career firefighters, so we have 3 paid people there 24/7 sleeping in a closet and operating in less than desirable conditions. So we are going to be adding that if the board approves the budget. We go to the next. The current staffing level is 3 paid firefighters 24/7, and the proposed budget will maintain that current staffing level. As we discussed last year, our long-term goal would be to try to increase that to 4 paid firefighters in the future as additional revenues are available. We do have a dwindling number of volunteers like everybody else. People are busy now, and they don't tend to volunteer like they did in the past. I grew up in the volunteer fire service back in Cumberland County and been in the fire service 47 years, and I'm on the roster for the fire department. The chief doesn't see much of me, but it is tough to get volunteers now. And to try to meet the OSHA requirement that I discussed with you folks last year on the 2 in, 2 out, once you put that first paid person on board, then you're required to meet the OSHA standards just like a fully paid department. So we're trying to move towards the 4 people so that when that first unit arrives, they don't have to wait for a volunteer to get there. They can immediately go into action and start to fight fires, save lives if it's necessary. Next slide, please. The Cabarrus fire study, which the board approved, Steve, this is 3 years old now?
Going on 3, it's 2 years.
Yeah, a couple years old. We really support this. This is a very good document, and we're trying to follow that as best possible. And it talked about trying to find ways to have paid staff at a very reasonable cost, and we do that much like other departments in the area. The chief hires off-duty firefighters from Charlotte. He's actually a career firefighter in Charlotte himself, from Concord, Kannapolis, Salisbury. We don't have to pay them benefits because they already have benefits from their existing department, so they get paid $10 an hour. The proposed budget does include the first pay raise they've ever had, and it's a 2.5% big whopping quarter raise, but it will be the first raise they've ever had since, I think, 2008, when the department first started putting paid personnel on. And this process also takes advantage of those career firefighters and their training. That training counts towards Mount Pleasant also, so we can help that with our justification. Okay, I lost the next slide. Okay.
We might need to distance on.
There, okay. I'll move through. Also, that having those 3 paid firefighters in the eastern part of Cabarrus County, we support, and we have a great mutual aid system in Cabarrus County. But Northeast, our neighbors over here that's here tonight, Georgeville, Reimer, Coldwater, Allen Fire Department, that all surrounds Mount Pleasant, they heavily depend on us, particularly in the daytime when, again, volunteers are very difficult to find. Those 3 paid personnel at Mount Pleasant are responding to calls in all of those mutual aid departments that surround us, and they get to use those paid people just like they were theirs. So we think that's very important for the entire part of eastern Cabarrus County. The town is actually 3.6 square miles. I find it amusing sometimes when people think that Mount Pleasant somehow is that whole eastern part of Cabarrus County, because they'll, I live in Mount Pleasant. Well, I actually live 2.5 miles out of town, but I live in the Mount Pleasant community. The town is only 3.6 square miles, about 1,700 population. The rural district is 36 square miles with about 4,500 people, and I think we have the largest rural district in Cabarrus County. The slide should be there, but I did this again this year just to give you an idea. You would think, why does a volunteer department out in the county need paid firefighters? Last year, the chief's crew ran to 952 emergency incidents, and to compare it to Concord, which I have access to the information since I retired from there last year, their busiest station, Station 1 here on Church Street, ran 1,600 calls. Second busiest ran 1,400 calls. Department Station 4 on Warren C. Coleman South, which is kind of in the middle of their call volume, ran 595, and Station 10, their slowest station, ran 288 calls. His folks ran 952. So folks wouldn't typically question why Concord would have a paid crew, but they might question why Mount Pleasant does. When you get a look at the call volume, that's an awful lot to expect from volunteers to run almost 1,000 calls a year. Some of the additional benefits from staffing, we told you last year that we're working to lower the rating, our ISO rating in the rural district, and we are. Those ratings run from a 1 to a 9, with virtually there being no Class 1s in the country. I think there are 36 out of 27,000 fire departments, to a Class 10, which is no protection. The town has a Class 6, which is pretty good for a town that size. The rural district has a 9. And what we're trying to do, and the chief's going to give you a quick overview of where we're at in that process. Hopefully, we'll come back to you next spring and tell you that we've been surveyed and have some good news for you. He's going to tell you where they're at right now in that process.
As far as the ISO rating, we're in the process, like Randy spoke of. He come last year before you folks, and for you folks that don't know, I just became the chief of the Mount Pleasant Fire Department in October, kind of stepping into this whole new process and all that. But we're working on lowering the ISO rating in the county. We want to get it down to probably like a 6 and a 4 inside the town. And for a fire department of that statute and that size of a town, and the way that we fund that fire department with part-time staffing, if we get that thing all the way down to a 4, that would be one of size in that state, in this state, that would be like that. Most of them have full-time staff members, paid career firefighters, like Mr. Holloway spoke of. We're manning this station with guys that are off duty from 24-hour jobs somewhere else. And so how we go about doing this is a lot of it is paperwork based, but the big part of it will be in the county will be a water shuttle. We have to be able to put so much amount of water on the scene of a house fire in so much time, and we have to be able to have a good relationship with the mutual aid agreement that we have in the county with our neighbors and all that, and make sure they know what to bring. That's why we come to you last year and asked you for the money to purchase the tanker. I got an update on the tanker earlier in the week. We're looking about August for our new tanker to arrive. It's going to be 3,000 gallons a minute. We'll be able to roll it out right behind the engine company to a structure fire. We'll be able to put 4,000 gallons right on the scene within 4 to 5 minutes, hopefully, if we can get out of bed and get going. Another part of it is the pre-plans. We've spent the past 4 or 5 months every day going into the businesses in the town of Mount Pleasant and right outside in the county, doing what we call a pre-plan, walking ourselves through there, getting contact information, getting hazardous materials that are on site and stuff like that. So when we pull up on there, we can pull up on our computers in the truck, and they'll be able to tell you, this gentleman here is in the pool business. He has chlorine on scene, or this guy runs a welding business. He's got some acetylene in the back right-hand corner and stuff like that. That's crucial information for my guys, right? It probably don't mean a whole lot to an individual living next door, but for my guys' life, and they're going in there, it's burning full of black smoke. They need to know that stuff's in there. Another part is the water system in the town. We are going out in the process now, checking all the hydrants, making sure they got the kind of flow that we need. We're also kind of in the process with an agreement with the city of Concord to be able to give us more water if we would have another fire like the Middle Lumber Fire. I'm sure all of y'all aware of the Middle Lumber Fire. Rather large fire we had in the small town of Mount Pleasant, probably one of the biggest fires the county's had in a long time. We had to get some water from Concord that night. Everything worked out, but we're trying to get a valve put in where if the pressure, we seem to be asking for more water on a big fire, that valve will activate and it'll be able to give us more water. That's a good relationship we have with the Concord and all that good stuff. But the ISO rating is basically a grading system for our fire department and fire departments in general. And it's hard to explain to Joe Civilian why we have 3 guys sitting down there in this ISO rating and how it affects him. And the easiest way for you to understand it is it's going to help your insurance. It's going to guarantee you that when you call 911, we're going to get there with 4 people within 5 to 7 minutes and be able to go in your house and go to work, whether there's somebody, and we always believe that there's somebody in the house. 2 o'clock in the middle of the day or 2 o'clock at night, we're going to go in with 2 people and 2 people outside to put the fire out and to make sure nobody's in there. They'll be coming in probably April of next year to do our ISO rating. They'll spend about 3 days with us. They'll go through every piece of paperwork that I can write my name on, our truck checks, our insurance information, everything, and then we'll go out and do a water shuttle with our mutual aid departments, and everything is time-based, and he'll call us back in probably a couple months and give us a grade, and we'll see how we do, and then that's when we'll be able to come back to you and show you that we've lived up to the expectations that we've laid before you.
Thank you, Chief. We do have a new tanker that we told you about last year. As you said, it would be in August. We have an existing tanker that's a little bit older unit, but it's still usable. So we're going to hopefully work out a deal with our neighbors at Northeast and lease them a tanker because they don't have one right now. So that would be good for them. They can help us mutual aid, and we'll be helping them. The slide that came up on the board there is the Chief mentioned is a good reason why we work on the rating, and I just used a $250,000 frame dwelling. We're currently a Class 9 in the rural area, so an individual is paying about $735 a year for their home insurance. If we drop that to a Class 6, I feel very confident that we will do that. That's going to drop to about $504. So the average taxpayer out there is going to see about $138 annual savings. Even with the tax increase, they're going to still see about $138,000. My home, I want to see about $250,000 savings. So I'm really pushing him to let's lower that rate because I want to see my homeowners go down. But very doable. That's happening across Cabarrus County right now. A lot of departments are working on that. A lot of good work. Odell kind of took the lead on it. Harrisburg's working on it. We're going to partner with Northeast and help them. Georgeville's working on it. We'd like to see everybody. That's a lot of dollars that can stay in Cabarrus County if all of us can get that Class 6 rating. So, and again, using that, there's the next slide there. This has the rates. This is just there for you to see what the current rates are. Ours would go, if you approve it, from 8.3 to 9.75, again, to basically replace a staffing grant. And closing there, some of the benefits of the proposal, the next slide, keeps the higher level of staffing for everybody in eastern Cabarrus County. And something that's neat, the way this works, if Northeast has us on automatic aid, and they do, and we can reach their district within 5 miles, and we can, they get to count those 3 people and our equipment just like it's theirs. And so does Georgeville, and so does Coldwater and Allen and everybody else. So with everybody having a very good mutual aid program, what one department does supports the other and helps the other department out. I'm not going to go through all these. Again, at the very bottom there, The increase will also help us with the badly needed $900,000 addition to the station, and I fully anticipate that our mayor and board will approve our budget, and that budget at Mount Pleasant currently includes that $900,000 funding for that addition to the station.
And I would just like to echo some of his comments about the station. It is something that's definitely needed for their department. They're one of the few departments that are actually able to do overnight staffing because they have done it. They've always kind of had a room with bunk beds and done staffing, but they're outgrowing that. And back in 2000, the code changed, and we're starting to see it across the whole state. And I've had multiple conversations with the State Fire Marshal's office about this, to where volunteer departments, because of the loss of volunteers, they're transitioning to combination departments and doing overnight staffing, and some of them can't because they don't meet code requirements. Whenever you start introducing a residential area into a commercial building, you have multi-use, and it requires a sprinkler system or a separate building for them to sleep in. So, that's something that they definitely need, and it is something that we've seen going out there doing their inspections.
Thanks, Steve.
Okay, Commissioners, any questions
Any questions?
or comments?
I have one question. My frame of reference for a facility is our EMS stations, and we just did a deal to do I think a 50-year lease for $375,000 for a new EMS substation, and so $900,000 is substantially more than that. Could you talk to me some about sort of the necessities of that $900,000 and just get us a little bit more comfortable with what types of things would be done for that amount of money?
Sure. Basically, the paid firefighters right now are very limited on their workspace. We're going to continue to use the existing apparatus bay, but that would include new restroom facilities that are very outdated. We currently don't have any female firefighters, but I anticipate that we will down the road to make sure we have the proper restroom facilities and locker room space for female firefighters to be there working with the male firefighters. The kitchen is horribly outdated. We're looking at a 2-story addition off the back of the existing station. As Steve mentioned, we'll have to sprinkle it and then retro sprinkle the remaining part of the building. So we're looking at about 4,000 square foot addition, with that being 2-story, a training room for them. Once we go 2-story, you have to put an elevator in to meet ADA compliance. That's $80,000 just for an elevator. So it's training, sleeping quarters, restroom, new kitchen, basically renovating the entire station with the exception of the apparatus bay.
Anybody else have anything right now?
Just out of curiosity, that sprinkling mandate that you have, ballpark, what does that add to the cost of your facility? I imagine significant.
About $75,000.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And it's necessary. There are a lot of fires in fire stations, more than you would think. Firefighters are cooking. They're like everybody else. A call comes in, somebody forgets to cut the stove off, and have a fire. Happens more often than you might think. Plus, you got vehicles parked inside with fuel. So I support the sprinkler system wholeheartedly.
I think you had said, Mr. Holloway, that was primarily driven by the fact that you were going to a paid staff as opposed to a volunteer staff. So would that be just for, you've got 3 paid staff now, is that essentially for 4 paid people?
For the area?
The remodeling, yeah.
It would be for everybody to use, but it would give the paid personnel, and we would build it to accommodate up to 8 people. What we would like to do, and again, part of the study recommended that departments approach UNCC that has a very good baccalaureate degree program and have live-in students and start trying to attract. The chief wants to do a junior firefighter program and try to get over to Mount Pleasant High and get some of those young people involved in our community in the fire department, and maybe allow them to come up if their grades are presentable on Friday and Saturday night so it doesn't interfere with their schoolwork, and have a place for them to stay. So it will be for both the paid and volunteers to intermingle. It won't be just for the paid personnel.
Yeah, I think that junior program's great. A couple of the volunteer firefighters I talked to said they were fighting fires when they were 12, and they said if you don't get started by the time you turn 18, you'll lose them. So I think that's a great program. But do you feel like 2-story is necessary? I mean, you mentioned, I think you said an $80,000 elevator. I can't imagine with those fit firemen running around that they're going to use that other than ADA requirements. Do you
In
feel
order
like that's-
to maintain the footprint that we have, and we're going to be using up some of his rear parking lot that he trains in, we have to go 2-story. If we do single-story, we'll eat up the entire rear parking lot. So, and we're not even in the design phase yet, but that was just an estimate, and talking with some architects and having them come out and look at it and give us an idea of what we need to do.
Thank you.
All right, we have different numbers in front of us, so I would like to get, make sure that I understand the exact numbers that you have, because you've got some that was here and some that's in the handout, and in your discussion, I'm not certain that, I thought you said there was a typo somewhere, but I'm not exactly certain where it is. So if we can get this so that we understand completely, to make sure everybody that's interested in that fire district, and what your budget is. Last year, I think you had we approved a rate
Yes.
increase. Can you
Yes.
speak to that just a little bit?
Sure did. That was a 2-cent increase, with the majority of that going to add the 3rd paid position up until October of last year, Chief. We had 2 paid people on 24/7, so about $100,000 of that 2-cent, which actually the 2-cent only generated about $80,000. So the additional funding from the town allowed us to actually put that 3rd position in. So that's where the 2-cent went to. The majority of it went to adding that additional position.
And you're asking for roughly another 1.5 cents this year.
Right, with that 1 cent pretty much going to cover the loss of the staffing grant, which is $30,000.
And that's where I'm not certain exactly what the calculation is, because based on the handout we have, and I'm not certain which one to look at to make sure.
The handout, the single-page handout that I sent around, that's the more accurate one. The budget was not finalized for the town until just recently, so the town's contribution went up. So the one that I just sent around, I'll need to send an update into Steve to show that, because the original one did not have the town contributing $182,000.
Okay. And that's why I said, that's why I want to make sure of it. The cost of the new building, the town is paying for all of that?
Yes.
So that's part of their budget, that's not part of this portion, or is some of this tax increase going to pay for that building also?
The tax increase we're actually retiring $89,000 in annual debt on a truck that's just paid off. We're rolling that annual payment into a 15-year loan to pay for that $900,000 addition.
Okay, so if you can kind of get some more details on that too, I'd appreciate it.
Sure.
Just, as you know from last year, question that I had was the amount that the people in the unincorporated areas are paying versus the amount that the people within the incorporated areas are paying. And I think we talked about that a lot last time, but still want to make sure that it is the town's fire department, and that the town is supporting strongly, not a majority, it's not even 50%, but that the town is covering the requirements
May I
of the
speak to that,
department.
please?
So, make sure you're on a microphone,
Okay.
because otherwise we won't pick you up.
So when you're talking about the unincorporated area, keep in mind that's 36 square miles. The town's area is 3 square miles. So yeah, is the unincorporated paying more? Yeah, but look how much bigger of an area versus the 3 square mile area. And I think Mount Pleasant's very unique, where most, say, City of Concord, it's the opposite. They have very little out of coverage area. We are, 36 square miles versus the town being 3 square miles. So that's where it does look like we're not putting in our part, but if you do the math, Randy, what was it that we're actually paying?
You'll be 14.3 cent of the 50-cent tax rate will be going to support the fire department.
And so really, we feel like the in-town people's paying a lot more. If you'll look
Each individual.
at each individual, they're paying a lot more than the out of coverage area. Thank you.
Well, and like I said, we talked about this before. I would also say that I'm very thankful that your part of the county is quite rural and has a lot of farmland that doesn't have, you can still have brush fires or, that, I understand that go on the farm, the farm property versus the structural parts. But I just think it's very important that that's weighed between the two, because what we look at is this fire budget versus what you're looking at for the town budget. So that's why I just think that's important for us to note. And as a reminder for anyone that listens to this program that is from that fire district, you do have the opportunity to email us. Usually we tend to get more responses when there is a tax increase of any kind. And so people in that district are welcome to respond to all the commissioners and let us know what you think about the proposals and the rate increase. And at our regular meeting in June, we will have our public hearing for the budget. And so that would be another time that if people are interested and they want to come to us face-to-face and say anything, just want to point that out, that would be a time for us to get input from the people who live in that particular part of the county. So, hey, anything else anybody have for that? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a pleasant evening.
Thank you, y'all too. I had to find the right place. Do you have anything else that you want to talk about?
Yep, I have
Oh, I'm sorry.
the
Yeah, I'm
Northeast
trying to get to it, sorry.
Fire Department. So we'll ask the Board President, Tom Earnhardt, to come forward. They are asking for, they've submitted two budgets, a 4-cent and a 2-cent, but I believe they're asking for the 4-cent, and we'll turn it over to Mr. Earnhardt.
Thank you, Steve. I do have with me the Vice President of the Board of Directors, Eddie Moose, to my right, also Board Member Rick Earnhardt, and our Secretary Treasurer Tracy Brown with us tonight. I appreciate the opportunity to come speak on behalf of Northeast Fire Department and Community Center. As you probably know, Northeast operates on the lowest budget of any fire department in Cabarrus County. And we continue to struggle just like anyone else financially, meeting budgets with ever-increasing regulations, mandatory state requirements, hose testing, apparatus inspections, protective equipment standards, ladder testing, fleet maintenance, and on and on and on. So do want to point out that the Northeast Board of Directors, the fire and EMS personnel, take the responsibilities of protecting lives and property very seriously. In our 5-year strategic plan, we also are looking to get to 24-hour staffing. Volunteerism in today's society is drying up. I think that's a common theme that you're hearing across the country, and we're no different than that. We also have an aging fleet of trucks. Engine 2 is a 1994 Pierce that's now 20 years old, and we're looking to replace that unit in the near future. And we also have the aspirations of lowering the ISO rating within the next couple of years as well. So by lowering that ISO rating does save each one of our homeowners quite a bit of money on their insurance premium, as was pointed out by Chief Holloway. The Northeast Board of Directors in their April meeting approved and is proposing a 4-cent increase in the existing district fire tax rate of 6.7 cents per $100 valuation. That generates about $44,000 in additional revenue on an annual basis. This increase in revenue would be used towards increasing the staffing to the department, and also would add to the reserves for replacing Engine 2. I'll keep this very brief. I know you guys have been here a long time. Again, I thank you, and I will open this up. Be glad to entertain any questions that you may have.
Can you just, okay, you're asking for a 4-cent increase, and can you just refresh my memory? A couple years ago, Did y'all choose not to go revenue neutral and you left the rate the same at that time? Is
No,
that
they
right?
they did go revenue.
We did
neutral.
You did go
neutral.
revenue neutral.
Yes, we
I couldn't
did.
remember if you adjusted or you didn't.
We
but
did. Mhm.
Was revenue, did that mean that you went, I
It
don't
was
know
a-
where your rate was?
The rate
That's what I'm
was
curious.
6 cents, and it went to 6.7
Okay,
to remain revenue neutral.
okay. I couldn't remember exactly what the rate was, but I thought there was a very small shift at that time.
That's
So,
correct.
Okay.
Mhm.
Commissioners, I'll open up to you for any questions.
What is the proposed new rate for Mount Pleasant Rural?
It would be 9.75.
9.75, and you're asking,
This would go to 10.7.
yours would be 10.7, so.
That's correct.
Commissioner Morris, one thing to consider, a penny in their district is how much?
About 10,000.
About $10,000.
Right, right,
So that's why it's a little bit higher.
yeah. Thank you.
What is your square mileage? Do you have any idea? How big is your district? Off the
I
top
don't
of your
remember what it is. We can get it, but
Yeah, I don't know offhand.
They were happy to tell us from Mount Pleasant, so I didn't know if you knew that off the top of your head.
It's
so-
not 35 square
And-
miles, I'll put it that way.
No, it's not. And you're quite rural,
That's right.
which is a very good standard of living to be out there. So, Jason, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I was just going to say, you don't have to be brief for us. We are here to serve you. So if you've got
Okay.
something you want to tell us, we'll stay until you're
Oh,
finished, okay?
You don't want to open up that can of worms.
You let us know what you have for us. You get to come in front of us one time a year, so you let us know.
We'll be back, right?
Anybody else have anything? I would just say, just as I did before, for anybody that lives in the Northeast Cabarrus Volunteer Fire Department District, you are welcome to contact commissioners concerning this increase. And, of course, at our meeting in June, you're welcome to come and speak to the board. And just as you are welcome to come and have your 3 minutes also, if there's anything that you want to add that evening, anything else that you think of. But thank you very much.
Thank you.
that's all we have.
Okay. Okay. Okay, Commissioners, we are almost at the end of the evening, and we're almost perfectly back on schedule. I don't know how that happened. We have any general discussion, anything that you heard tonight that you need more information on, or anything that you think staff has missed somewhere? Any general comments?
I am curious what our projected surplus is at the moment. We have, it went from 3.5 million to 5.5 million about through the end of the first quarter. Well, it would be our third quarter. It was 5.5 million, so I'm curious what that is projecting at the moment.
Do you want to get that by the work session?
We can, or I don't know, and if you feel comfortable right now projecting it, or do you want to wait till? Is Monday okay, Commissioner? Okay, yeah.
I'd rather make sure that you've got it right.
And I had asked for that list of projects allocated through our capital program for both the county and for the parks. So I'd like to take a look at that, too.
So you'll have that Monday also?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you think?
If not before.
Okay. Fine. Anything else?
Oh, there you go. If
There you
not
go.
before.
If not before, see how good that is. Do you want to just pass it around then, or if you don't mind? Jason, do you have anything else tonight? Do you have anything else for right now?
I do not.
You're good. Steve, anything else that you need? Good, thank you very much. Larry, anything else that you need for tonight?
Yeah.
You know, it is so nice for everybody to be good. So with that, do you have anything else?
No, I just following up on what we discussed tonight, based on the discussion, we are going to look at funding needed for the 2 nursing supervisors, 1 administrative assistant, 1 vehicle. Just to let you know, if you haven't already seen it, the Senate has made their budget proposal public. I think they finalize it officially tomorrow, and we'll passing it to the House for their review now. So we're watching that closely, just simply because of some of the things that are proposing. Of course, the proposed teacher increases is a little higher than what we have proposed in your budget. So we're watching that closely. The Medicaid hold harmless, they're proposing to incrementally reduce that down to zero, where we currently receive $500,000. So they're looking to reduce that by $125 each year for the next 4 years to bring it back to zero, I believe.
Right, we only had $450,000 budgeted because that was the projection of what we would get.
Okay, yeah,
And so we
good.
had to reduce it to $375.
So we're watching that, and also Dr. Pilkington also said that they may potentially lose funding for one nurse in that budget as well. So we'll be watching those closely and keep you guys posted on that as we get to Monday's meeting, so.
I know that Megan had sent out the agenda today. I didn't get a chance to look at it. Do we have any more presentations scheduled for Monday? I know we had talked about using that Monday work session to facilitate the Association of County Commissioners Convention. So I wasn't sure if we had any other budget discussions scheduled right now for
We
Monday.
have Human Services and Transportation. I have given the opportunity for the sheriff to talk. I'm waiting on a response there, so.
He's out of town at a conference, so that's probably why.
Why he hadn't got back yet?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, yeah. And you do have a regular agenda as well for June? Okay, great.
We also had, we had discussed this in the past, looking at our fee schedule for construction standards.
right,
And
yeah.
with your budget, you pass fee schedules if there are any changes also. So that'll be coming before you. And we went back, Mr. Maida and Kelly Sifford have done, you'd requested that we look at what our basis in the inspection was, what our direct, indirect cost was. So they've done some analysis and based the projected changes on that. And Kelly will present that. It should be fairly quick.
Anything else?
Written down all the questions, and I'm sure everyone else has too. So we'll get a comprehensive list for you on Monday for you to review. Yep. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? May I have a motion to adjourn? Oh, wait a minute, are we adjourning or are we recessing? To recess to June 2nd, 2014 at 4 p.m. in this room. Have a motion, do I have a second? Motion and second, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you all very much. See you next week.